Hey there, you wondering when you can move your baby quail from the brooder box outside in the wintertime? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hey there, welcome back to another Slightly Rednecked video. My name is Chris, and if you're not familiar with this channel, I help you to produce your own meat, eggs, and vegetables from your backyard, your balcony, deck, or garage, or even a spare room in your house if that's the way you want to do it. And today we're going to be answering a question that I've addressed in video before, but it came up from a viewer recently about moving your quail from the inside brooder out to the outside hutches when it's pretty cold outside, when it's wintertime. So let me pull up this comment from the viewer. This comment came from a viewer by the name of, there we go, Wandering Dragon. I'll put that up on the screen here. And he says, hello, thank you so much for your videos. 2 more days and my chicks will be 4 weeks old. They're in the basement now, but I have a heat lamp on them. The outside low temperature for the nights will be 35 to 45 for the next week. Can I move them outside with a heat lamp, or should I keep them indoors for another week? All right, that's a very good question and a very good cause for concern when you're talking about moving baby quail outside to cold temperatures. 35 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit's pretty chilly. When they're coming from a brooder box, it's probably being kept around 90 degrees, you know, something like that. So let's address this question here. In the summertime, let me start off there, I have no problems. When the nighttime temperatures drop in below 75 or at 75 degrees or above, no problems taking the babies at about 3 weeks old at the most, moving them right out into the hutch with the adult birds. Wintertime's a little bit of a different story when it's really cold outside. I have tried to move some birds outside when the temperatures drop down below 35 degrees. 3-week-old birds just don't do very well. Now yours are 4 weeks old, they grow pretty quick, and they're probably fully feathered out by this point, so theoretically they should be fine to go ahead and move outdoors. But I would caution you a little bit here. You don't want to keep a heat lamp on them and move them from 90 degrees to 35 degrees. That's a big shock for any animal. That'd be a big shock for me. And you guys probably know too, if you live in an area where winter comes on pretty strong, you know, when winter first hits, it's pretty brutal. It's hard to handle, and you know, it takes a little bit to get acclimated to that. It feels, I mean, 50 degrees feels pretty cold when you're used to 90 degrees or 100 degrees. So here's what I would suggest for you is keep them indoors at least another week. Go ahead and move the heat lamp off of them, and you probably should have weaned them off the heat lamp already, but that's okay. It's not a big mistake. It's not a big issue. Go ahead and start weaning them off the heat lamp. So don't just, you know, I don't know how cold your basement gets. You know, if it stays in the 60s, then you're probably okay to just remove the heat lamp completely. But if it gets down to the 50s, the 40s, I'd drop that down a little bit before I'd move the heat lamp off of them. So let's assume you're keeping them at a 90-degree heat right now. Move that heat lamp a little bit further away from the brooder box, get it down to about 60 degrees, 70 degrees, somewhere right around in there. Give them about 4 or 5 days to you know, adjust to that a little bit. And then you could drop it another 10, 15 degrees, give them another couple of days to adjust to that, and you'll notice what happens when you first move that heat lamp away. They're going to all crowd up underneath the heat lamp, and then within a day, 2 days, they're going to be all start moving around. You probably don't even need to give them 4 or 5 days, but within a day or two, they're going to start moving around a little bit more comfortable. They're not going to be crowded under the heat lamp. When they do that, you can move it away a little bit further, drop it another 10 degrees, get them down to at least, you know, the 50s if you can. Now if your basement doesn't get that cold and you can only get them down to, let's say, 60 degrees, that's fine. If you want to be extra cautious when you move them outside, you can add a heat lamp if you want, but try to keep it at a distance where it's only going to warm them up to like the 50s or the 60s, you know, something like that, when the temperatures are down in the 35-degree range. You don't want to keep that at 90 degrees and get them acclimated to that heat and keep them acclimated to that heat. Another thing you might be able to do, if you have the ability to do it, this is a little bit more difficult, you're going to have a lot of time on your hand, is move your brooder box outside, leave it outside for 4 or 5 hours, and then bring it back in. And then the next day try to leave it outside for maybe 5 or 6 hours and then bring it back in. Watch your birds, make sure they're not, you know, suffering too much. But you give them a couple of days of that to acclimate to that over the course of a week, and you can go ahead and move them right outside. Now I know this sounds very, very complex. I don't know what your forecast is for the next week either, but you said it's going to be 45 to 35 for the next 4 or 5 days. You know, if it's going to warm back up and be in the 60s, right now we're going through an unseasonably warm heat wave. I mean, this is the day after Christmas. By the way, I hope everybody had a great Christmas. Day after Christmas, and it's like 65 degrees out here. I don't even have to have a jacket on. It's just incredibly warm. We set a record temperature record high on Christmas Eve of 76 degrees. And then yesterday, Christmas Day, it was 72 degrees, which wasn't a record high, but still an unusually high temperature for Christmas time and winter time here. If you're seeing the same thing in your area, and after the next 4 or 5 days, the temperature is going to be back up in the 50s and 60s, that's going to be your normal, that's going to be your low for the days, then just wait a week. You know, like I said, go ahead and start weaning them off the heat lamp, wait a week and put them out. Either way, you're probably going to have to wait a little while, get them off that heat lamp, get them a little bit more acclimated to a 60 degree, 50 degree weather if you can, and then you can go ahead and move them right outside. Now, by the time they're 5 weeks old, they should be able to handle any kind of temperature drops, but still, you know, I just don't like the idea of taking a bird from 90 degree brooder box and plunging them into 35 degree weather. That would be a shock for me, and I think it's going to be a shock for the birds as well. Now, all my birds that are in here, we have had some freezing temperatures. Some of these birds are a little bit younger. I haven't lost a single bird. I got them out here when, well, I lost some to a fox attack and some early on, but once they hit about 5 weeks old, they're fine. There's no problems whatsoever with the temperature drops. We've got some cold weather coming up this weekend, possible snow. The temperature is going to be dropping down into the 20s. I'm not worried about these birds at all. They're already outside, already acclimated. So once you get them, like I said, about 5 weeks old, go ahead and wean them off the heat. Take this week to wean them off the heat either way, and then they should be good to just go right outside. Now, if your temperatures next week are going to be in the low 30s, then, you know, again, you might want to just give them a couple of days outside with the heat lamp if you can adjust it to where it's not warming them up too much, but just kind of knocking the chill off, getting it up to maybe 45, 50 degrees at least. Give them a couple of days of that before you just take it away completely. That'll probably help with the transition a little bit. Hopefully that makes sense. A little bit of a jumbled up answer. It's not just a cold, you know, a clear cut yes or no. Can you move them out? I'd go ahead and wean them off the heat lamp right now and then go ahead and move them out after a week. I'd go ahead and wait that week. Honestly, when you're brooding your quail out, by the time they feather out at about 2.5 weeks old, somewhere right around in there, you need to start weaning them off that heat. Just, again, 10 degrees, give them a day or two to adjust to that, another 10 degrees, another day or two to adjust to that, and then chances are if you got them inside in a sheltered area where, you know, you're probably not getting below 60 degrees anyway, you should be able to just remove the heat lamp at that point. And then by the time they're 4 weeks old, they're going to be plenty acclimated to living without a heat lamp, and you should be good to move them outside. But since you've had them on the heat lamp the whole time, take this next week to go ahead and try to wean them off that. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that clears it up. I know I haven't been good to responding to comments lately. I'm doing my best to try to get back into the habit of doing that. I've had a lot going on, but no excuses. I've been kind of lazy, and no, sorry, my dog distracted me. He's chasing a squirrel. I've been kind of lazy. I've been kind of just other things going on, and my attention span has been elsewhere. I'll get back on track, I promise you guys. So I do see all your comments. Please leave comments. If you have questions or comments or, you know, anything, leave them down there. I see them. They come in my email. And, you know, if it's something that I haven't addressed, or if I can find the time, I'll address it in video like I did this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. As always, God bless.